Okay, welcome everybody back to another 3D Hangout. It is Wednesday. I'm Noah Ruiz, designer here at Adafruit. Join me every week, Mr. Pedro.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Pedro Ruiz, creative tech here at Adafruit, and every week we come to share 3D printing projects featuring electronics from Adafruit.
That's right, this is a show where we combine 3D printing and digital electronics on any day of the week, not just Thursdays, also Wednesdays. Tomorrow is a holiday here in the States. It's called Thanksgiving. We're very thankful for all of you folks for joining us today, because tomorrow is, we're going to have the day off, sort of. We're still going to do stuff.
Well, hopefully you guys have the day off to tune in, watch the show on, which I think is now going to be every Wednesday. Since
Are we going to change it to 3D Wednesday?
I think so. We need to change that graphic.
Yeah. Kirby had a great suggestion. Just cross out Thursday over here and put Wednesday, because it's show day. We have lots of shows today. Tonight we have awesome coupon code. Tomorrow we have a coupon code. And that's messed up. It's OLED time. Pedro, dance around until I fix this. Hold on.
This week's project is microPython OLED watch, which I think you guys might have seen. The project went live this morning. You can get the STL files or the Fusion 360 files to change this around. And the main goal with this was to give schools and especially kids a platform to learn how to code and use 3D printing for designing a very cool little wearable OLED watch. So it's all printed in NinjaFlex. The files let you adjust the parameters, so you can adjust the band strap here to fit your wrist. And of course, if you want to use different boards, you can edit the sketch that is generating all of the solids for this. So it's super cool project, especially for the youngins out there who are just getting started with design and coding. And I think the most coolest thing about the microPython platform is a lot of the work that Scott has done in implementing mass storage, working on this. So if you guys are familiar with doing Arduino programming, you are aware that once you write your code and you compile it, it is forever lost inside of the microcontroller. The cool thing about having mass storage on this is if you plug it in through USB, you can very clearly see all the code that is making this entire circuit run, which is really cool. And I'm going to take a look at that as soon as Noah's finished here.
It's never going to finish. It won't fix. So what do you want to do next?
Let's take a look at the notes here.
So what happens when...
Let's take a look at the walkthrough for the OLED watch. So if you jump into Fusion 360...
that might not work. Let's see here. Yeah, it works.
Cool.
Kind of. Alright, so what do we... We're inside the file here. Okay. What do I do?
Okay, so the parameters that let you adjust this, no, you actually came up with this for the Circuit Playground wearable
band.
I
needed a way to, quickly adjust the band size and the band width and the holes in the band and a couple other different things. So I put together different user parameters. It's a great use case for it. And this one uses the same thing. So if you open this file, in Fusion 360, you can change all the parameters very easily. And everything's sketch driven, so you can change all of the dimensions if you want. And that's pretty much it. You can download this too for all sorts of different CAD packages, because Fusion lets you download it in different file formats, so that's always good. And that's about it really for this. The cool thing is, though, that you printed this in 2 different colors, specifically. Actually, both of these are 2 different colors, which is pretty cool. It's actually not sliced. It's not cut up in here to be separate files. So you can print this with a single extruder, or you can print this with a single extruder, but 2 different colors. Yeah.
So the way we achieve that is using 2 different processes inside of Simplify 3D, which I think we have in one of the B-rolls. Did you put that in there? It's just a time lapse of it. So we talked about it last week. All you're doing is going inside the Advanced tab, setting up how far it prints to. In this case, for the watch band, it's going to go from 0 millimeters down to, or up to 0.8 millimeters. And you can swap out your filament and then start at 0.8 millimeters and print all the way up to, I believe it's 6 millimeters because of the pin that is on one of the watch bands there. And it's a really cool way to get a dual tone, which, not in this time lapse, but the one that we show here is definitely inspired by the Nike watch band that was released not too long ago.
Did you
with the
release
Apple Watch.
both styles? There's two different designs.
Yeah, so I did release just the whole one, but if you go into the Fusion 360 file in the timeline, you'll find the different pattern for that.
These are
It's
just some ideas.
suppressed.
I mean, you can create your own patterns and use the same sketches and parameters, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so Pedro's talking about dual color printing in Simplify 3D.
If you jump over to learn.adafruit.com, you should see it as the new guide that was published. And inside there is all the nitty-gritty on editing the design and how to set up the dual color using one extruder for that.
Cool. Do you want to reiterate which window?
Yeah, so it's in
Advanced
the
tab.
Advanced tab inside of Layer Modifications, and you're just going to adjust the start and stop printing heights. And those should be in there for, specifically for the band, the heights that you're going to need for that. In this case, it's 0.8 where it stops.
Yep. So again,
when it
it's
starts.
two different G-code files. You just print one after the other one. Don't remove the print off the bed,
No, keep it on there.
Keep it
It's
on the
gonna
bed.
Start on there.
and it'll start printing right on top. Very awesome method. Great way to, a really easy way too, to do dual color printing with a single extruder.
Yeah, we'll talk
How's
about
that?
a different way to do that later on the show.
What I like about this project is that there's really no wiring. It really is a stack.
It's a stack of boards, yeah. So it is going to be a little bit chunky, but for the purposes of education and teaching kids how to program,
The
which
chunkier the better, man. We're going back to that, like, chunky is better, right? Cool stuff. So the headers are really easy to install. Pro tip: use some mounting tack to keep your female pins in place while you solder. Good stuff. So this is using two wings, right? The OLED wing and the RTC wing. RTC goes underneath the OLED.
Yep.
And you do need a coin cell
to keep that accurate time, and then a lipo to power the feather
Stack
board.
them high. Look how you stack them. Good stuff.
I know there's a song that goes like that. Stack them
'em
high.
Okay. Cool. Very, very simple, easy project to put together. But there's a lot of different things you can do with it because you can always stack them. And it doesn't seem like there's any, screws or anything that you need to mount it to the enclosure because it's a tight fit, nice snug tolerance fit.
Reiterating again, this has to be printed in NinjaFlex unless you adjust the
Oh,
sizes
good point.
on the case, and this wouldn't work with rigid materials, the bands anyway. So definitely keep in mind you will need an extruder that is capable of printing in NinjaFlex. A little bit hard to put this on with one hand, but you can do it if you do find it a little bit difficult. You will need some flush cutters just to clean up the little peg that punches through to hold the watch strap together. It's really cool. You can.
Oh, it worked. Yes.
You got it?
Welcome back, chat.
What happened? Oh, that's what you've been doing this whole
I've
time.
been trying to fix this whole time.
Yeah, so like I was saying before, it could be a little bit challenging to put it on with one hand, but it can be done. You just got to clean up the little, what's it called, the little pin. I know there's the technical term for it when I was looking for a diagram of a watch band. I think it's called like the buckle tongue or something like that.
Buckle tongue.
Yeah,
So
but
it
can
has
be done.
eyes, knees, and toes.
Yeah.
Cool.
So one of the
That's great.
coolest thing though, why Phil asked us to make this is because we're going to be doing a lot of work with education, and when kids need to build a cool project, it's the best way to learn something is when it's project based. So when you plug this into USB, we have the.
Let's do that now.
So I'm just going to plug it in, and we're going to look at our Finder here.
Yep. Plug it in.
Like I was saying before, if you're familiar with doing Arduino work, you have to open up the IDE, and you have to do all this compiling.
You have to install libraries.
To install libraries, you'll lose your. At some point, you're going to lose your code because everything is firmware always changes. Things are always updating. So the cool thing about this is that when you plug it in through USB, it loads as a drive.
Yep.
Nice little
storage
USB
device.
drive. So this is a ginormous deal.
5K available.
Yeah. Well, you can go in. You can load up your your main.py file, and you can take a look at all the code that is used to run this. So if you just wanted to adjust the time here, and or like draw shapes inside here, like make like little emojis on there for kids learning how to draw. Tony D has a, I think he just last week had a whole video on how to draw images inside of a microPython with OLEDs. So definitely check that out.
Okay. Yeah, all the guides on Tony's how to get started with microPython.
Yeah.
Cool. This is really awesome because with Arduino, like you said, you can't really see the code that's on the board.
So we
it's
have
not easy
like
to update it.
Projects that
Well,
we've
it's
made
kinda
like
easy,
2 or 3 years ago where because everything's been updated so many times, like even if we did save out the code and updated our IDE, it probably wouldn't run. We'd have to do a lot of adjustments for those just for fixing the timing of like an LED blinking or something like that. This is really cool to be able to look back on your uncompiled code to see that running. So super awesome. When Scott told me when he was working on this, my mind just was just like mind blown because of not knowing that
it could be done
easier. And this really makes it really opens up your eyes, because it's like, oh wow, what if I could plug in my something simple like a remote control or something and look at all the code that is making it function and be able to switch that around. Like maybe you hold down the power button for like 2 seconds and it does something else, so you can add functionality to that. So the future of programming microcontrollers, it's coming. Yeah, I just unplugged it.
Okay. Cool.
So super cool. Definitely check that out if you want to learn how to flash the M0 boards, the feather board specifically that Adafruit makes. Tony has a whole guide on that. Super easy. On the Mac, it's just through the terminal.
Watch Tony D's desk, guys. Be sure to subscribe and take
out.
a look at the new category in the Adafruit Learning System.
Very cool.
Guess what, guys? It is OLED time. That's actually tomorrow's coupon. Tonight we have a coupon code. It's going to be announced at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. All things go well. I think they will. Guess what? We also have some good stuff. There is some awesome free deals going on right now. So if you go to adafruit.com/free, you can get all the details on this month's deals. So here we have it's a limited time in ML pin. You can get one of these 3 awesome pins. We got Cappy the capacitor, Mo the resistor, and Adabot the bot for orders over $99 or more. And if you spend $100, the more money you spend, the more stuff you get. Free stuff too. You get a free Adafruit Feather, the 32U4 Basic Proto. It is for $150 or more. And free shipping for $200 or more. It's still going on. Of course, some restrictions apply to just the folks here in the U.S., continental U.S. Good stuff.
Definitely a good deal. Definitely want to collect all of those.
Collect all the pins.
Awesome little pins.
I want some pins.
Real quick, shouting out the chat room. We have 42LS anything in the house. Stuff with Kirby. Always in the house.
Thanks, guys, for joining us on Wednesday. We know it's short notice. We didn't realize that Thursday was going to be a holiday till Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah, Tuesday. We're like, oh, we got to do the show.
Sergio Gomez is in the house.
Hello.
William Carter, apt pupil, epic time breaker.
Ryder left, but hello and goodbye. Good to see you for the short time you're here. Somebody left.
Oh, Brendan Fu is in the house too.
Hey,
from
Brendan
Toronto,
Fu.
Canada.
Hey, from the Mosaic team, Mosaic Manufacturing.
Great.
We have a whole segment about our unboxing and our first look at the Mosaic palette. So let's keep going. So we took a look at the OLED. We took a look at the project. Now we're going to look at Shop Talk. Do you want to jump right into the palette?
Yeah. So this week we got something we've been wanting to test out for quite a while since the Kickstarter came out.
That's right.
How long did that come out ago? Like a year ago, something like that.
Ah, man.
No,
the time escapes me. But when I first saw it, I was like, yes, this is an awesome way to approach dual and multi-material printing. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure you might know, but if you don't, the Mosaic is an all-in-one standalone unit that is supposed to be added onto your 3D printer. So let's say your 3D printer has a single extruder. Well, you can turn that into a quad printer with the Mosaic palette.
Yeah, so everything is contained in this nice simple white little box here. So what it's doing inside is it's grabbing 4 filaments, splicing them at the required lengths to print out your detailed object, and then fusing the filaments together so that when that length gets to the extruder, it will print out with those colors where it needs to be. So it's super cool. You can check out their Kickstarter dev to look at all the technical specs on how it's doing the splicing and fusing and all that goodness.
Yeah, so we set it up and we have a little time lapse here of printing Flowlistics Squirtle. Is that right?
Yeah, I think this is like the default dual extrusion.
Hello world of
printing,
dual extrusion now. Thinking Augustine.
And here's what it looks like.
So we set this up on the Type A machines, Series 1 Pro. This is from Type A machines.
Yeah, calibrating is super easy. All you're doing really is figuring out what the length is from the Bowden tube coming out of the Mosaic palette into the extruder and out the nozzle.
Yeah.
And once you get that all set up, it will figure out how long each piece of filament color needs to be so it'll print out in the appropriate spot for your model. So it does have to use a prime tower to flush out the color, the previous color that we're using before. So you will need to do that. And the accuracy is really nice. So again, this is all printed with 1 extruder, and you can print up to 4 colors on that, and it came out super clean.
Here we go. Oh my goodness, look at the detail on this. Look at the overhangs. The overlapping of the materials is spot on.
And this was, we finished setting it up yesterday, like not even the whole day. I think it near the end of the day is when I had time to
Here, writer, this is the palette from Mosaic Manufacturing. This is the device. It might retail for $9.99. And real quick, I can show you their Kickstarter page. Is that cool, Pedro?
Oh, yeah.
Here's a Kickstarter page.
It's available for
pre-order
now.
Pre-order now.
I think it's a Mosaic Manufacturing.
Here's some quick shots of what the filament fusing looks like. There's the innards. There's a full post of sort of the process of how it works and how it's achieving the results. So you can take a look at their Kickstarter page for more details. They have a full set of instructions, YouTube videos on their YouTube account, great stuff. So let's go back to, I thought I broke something for a second. Did that work? Did y'all see that? I don't know. I had a little glitch. Anyway, going back over here. So let's take a look at the filament. You had a little piece of filament here just to show the fusing, and then we'll do comparisons.
Yeah, so this is what it looks like when it fuses together.
Yeah. So you can see how small of a slice it can do, right? And these are what 4 colors here: black, green, blue, and gold. Yeah.
So we're going to print the 4-color benchy test next to see what that looks like. But
yeah,
I think right after that we'll do the conductive filament test, the little tweezer, the battery tester.
So testing different filament properties, not just color. That's a real thing that we really love testing is different materials. Let's say rubber, TPU with PLA. Or conductive PLA composites with other types of material.
So how does this actually compare to something like the Ultimaker 3 that has 2 extruders?
Right. And it has independent extruders.
Yeah, so
throw it in there.
It did a little bit better job than the Ultimaker. And so this was printed with 0.2 millimeter layer height, and the Ultimaker was actually printing at 0.15 millimeter layer height.
150 microns versus 200 microns. One is using 2.85 filament. The other one is using 1.75 filament. One is a Bowden. The other one is a direct drive.
Yeah. And you can see there's some overhang issues on the Ultimaker 3, even though it has 2 fans on each side.
The Ultimaker 3 did not use a prime tower.
That is one of the upsides of that. So because of that, this only took about an hour and a half to print, while the Type A with the Mosaic palette took 3 hours and a half to print because it has to, sort of pause to go over and print the prime tower.
You could adjust the prime tower. See how massive the prime tower is? It's very dense. If you look at the top, it actually kind of changed the infill, which is just rather nice. But still, we're looking at a little bit more waste here, but a much superior quality.
Yeah, so for the setup, they suggested that you have to use 10 to 30% infill for this.
Okay.
On the Ultimaker, I used 0% infill on this, no prime tower. The only amount of time that it takes, the extra, is where the extruder moves over to the right back side and cools one of the extruders while it lifts. So it doesn't have any oozing on it.
So here's Flowlistic, Augustine's Squirtle, being printed on the Ultimaker 3, no prime tower. You see those two little snots in the top? Those are just, they start G-code. Okay.
The priming of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's what that looks like.
And this was hollow, wasn't it?
This was 0% infill.
Yeah, so maybe if we,
hollow.
because the Squirtle that we printed using the palette is actually, it has infill. So maybe that.
Yeah, 10% infill, yeah.
So, okay. So those are the comparisons. You get a much nicer quality with the palette, but you waste a little bit more material. Maybe you can adjust that, changing the size of the transition layer.
We'll go over that in a little bit. But yeah, there is a way to make this a little bit smaller, but you still
have to use it. Right. Yeah. Okay. There's no option yet to not use a prime tower.
And it is pretty dense, so
it thing's heavy, man.
Compared to the weight of the Squirtle, this is a little bit more heavier.
Yeah.
And
it almost reminds me of Subtractive, where it's like you end up with more swarf.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well,
but if you're using this for industrial purposes, one of the applications that they show on their website is where they're printing like a whole model, like a architectural model. And for those of you that have done like 3D modeling for video games, have seen the models look very plain before you add a texture model on top. So what they show is an architectural model with all the colors in there, like the seats are all nicely colored, dual tone, and it really makes a ginormous difference in terms of visual presentation for finalizing a design. So it makes a huge difference if you are using this for business purposes.
Absolutely.
This this right here, you're not even gonna have a second thought about it just to get that. The colors that 4 colors you would want out of that.
Let's take a look at the workflow that we did for slicing, and then using their software. What was it called, Pedro?
What's that?
Their software.
Their software is called Chroma. So if we want to take a look at the workflow for that. So inside of Simplify 3D, you are going to take your single extruder profile and just duplicate it. Make 4 of them if you're using 4 colors. And some of the settings that you want to change inside there, very minimal. If you go inside of your layers, you have to have that at 2 millimeter layer height. And then for each duplicate you're going to make, the index for the tool head is going to go from 0 to 3. 0 counts as 1. And then the other thing you want to change is the tool distance change. You want to drop that to 0. And you want to keep the retraction the same as the retraction you're using for your extruder. We were saying before, 2 millimeter layer height.
What did you assign for Intel?
Height.
Primary extruder, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, there's only one.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. All the instructions for this on their website too. It's super simple.
Okay.
And then you just select what is going to print for each extruder.
Right. So this is benchy. This is a multi-material benchy. There's like, I don't know, 20 parts or so. A lot of parts. So there's a lot of
customization on
yeah.
that. Yeah.
But again, Simplify 3D is a great representation of your rendering out G-code.
Yeah.
So
bring this into Chroma. You're gonna bring in the G-code file that you generate out of Simplify 3D, and it's gonna do its calculation for figuring out how long each strand of color needs to be for when it gets up to that point where it'll color that. And you can switch these around just to have a visual representation of what extruder, or not extruder, but what zone is going to be printed for what.
So it looks like you could change your printer profile up there.
Yeah,
cool.
So if we jump into there, we can take a look at what the settings look like. This is what I was talking about, the transitional length. This is going to affect how big the prime tower is. And all it's looking at is the size of the bed, and then the offsets that each printer is going to have. So it's like the length from going from the palette into the extruder and out of the nozzle.
Cool. And then you can recalibrate there from the button.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. You've only
Yeah.
calibrated it once?
I calibrated about 4 times, just because I didn't know how to properly calibrate it. But after that, once they helped me out with the required length,
Cool.
it was good to go from there.
Okay, that's just a quick look at it. We'll talk more, obviously, we'll do some more testing. But this is really our first try of it. So how did Benchy work? How did Benchy turn out? Well, Benchy was at a good start. It was about to float, and then it sank. I don't know how else to...
Yeah, so it's either the extruder on the printer, I think, is what failed. Just got to make it a little bit more hotter, I think, or the retraction was too... I set it up too high, but I'll try again, and we'll rip.
It could also
work
be
back.
that the PLA PHA is a bit prone to printing
Yes, it
not
did
so
fail on the
fast.
yeah,
Maybe the speed was a little bit too fast.
It did fail on the... It looks like the black PLA PHA, so I'll have to
So
look at
did
that.
this actually clog the Mosaic palette?
No, so when I went to clear it out, it cut the filament that I had already made, and it came right out.
Okay.
Other stuff that we want to go over, I think that's
You
pretty
got,
much it.
yeah, we wanted to share, I guess you could skip 175 Ultimaker dual extrusion. Or do you want to talk about it? I mean, we're kind of bouncing between the palette and the Ultimaker 3.
It's just a comparison, yeah.
Yeah.
But there you go. There's a first look at the Mosaic printer. Some people in the comments saying,
It's
yeah.
a Mosaic printer. Mosaic, what do we call the product? It's not a printer.
No, it's the palette. It's
Yeah.
the 4-color
You call
extruder.
it the palette printer. The palette
Extruder, yeah.
extruder add-on.
Mhm.
Amazingness. Okay.
Yeah, some people are saying this looks very wasteful, but when you're doing like CNC, have you ever done any CNC work?
Yeah.
You should look
It's
at the
like
waste that's coming
50%.
out of
Yeah,
there.
it's like 50%. It's usually half, even more, of waste.
Yeah.
And then somebody asked, I think, can you recycle this? Sure. If you run an operation like the fine folks at Protopasta, yeah, you could recycle it. I suppose.
chuck it into your grinder. and
Chuck
then
it into the
extruder,
grinder
yeah.
and then
So
run
yes.
it through your long, giant, 5,000 square foot cooling vat
Mhm.
that cools the filament. You could do it, I guess.
Yeah.
We've tried it before. It's quite the process to recycle filament, and you're kind of supposed to use like 40% recycled, and then the other
Yeah, it's a whole.
60 is like virgin pellets.
Yeah,
So,
and then-
anyway, that's a whole nother hole I don't want to get into. But yeah, it's possible to recycle this.
Yes, it's correct. It's going to be $9.99, and other comparisons to what the palette is. Prusa recently came out with a 4-color, I'm gonna say like mixture extruder thing for I think like $250. But you have to. It works with their printer. You have to
Mhm.
get like 4 other motors. You
just
got
have
to
to
mount
assemble
it. Yeah, you have
so
to
if you're not
assemble.
in
This is-
assembly, and you just want something that's going to work out of the box without having to install
Mhm.
it and assemble it.
Yep.
You just calibrate it.
What you're paying for is a nice, neat little package that you can move from different printer. So it doesn't require, it's not attached to one printer that can only do that. You can swap this around. This works on Delta printers. It works on, dual extruder printers. And it's a nice way to go if you are doing a lot of engineering work that requires colors for presentations or
Yeah.
even for like final products.
Mhm.
You can definitely
Yeah.
make them
The
look
premise
more
is to
professional.
utilize your current existing printer.
Mhm.
That's the promise. And it works with Bowden, it works with direct drives and other
Yeah.
different types.
So definitely especially for like this watch band, we had to, I had to design it in a way where you could stack them on top of each other,
Mhm.
and that took quite a bit to figure out what the proper heights would be for that, and the strength of it too, because it can't be too thin, or otherwise, the band's not going to be able to hold
Okay.
as well. So definitely would have been nice to utilize it for that.
Okay. All right, we're going to do...
So definitely check it out.
Well,
It's at
the-
Mosaic Manufacturing.
Yeah, check 'em out. yeah, and shout out to Brendan. Brendan.
He's in the chat.
He's in chat. We will be doing more awesome stuff. Oh, printing, dual extrusion printing, but on the Ultimaker 3 using PVA filament. This is the water-soluble filament. Check it out. If you watched Tuesday's video, where's Tuesday's videos? Do you see it? I don't see it.
There it is, right there.
I still don't see it. That's a Squirtle.
Oh, sorry.
We got lost. Maybe it's this one, the one that's black, because that's how it starts. This is a massive print. Did you scale this to be the max bed?
No, this is the...
This is huge. This is the Dragon Bake by BS3 on Thingiverse. And it's a very organic shape. It's hollow, because it's a bank. But we printed this on Ultimaker 3, orange PLA and PVA on the second extruder. And this is a massive print. Here's a really quick time lapse of it dissolving in a bucket of water. How long did this take to dissolve?
I want to say about 4 hours, I think, to completely dissolve. But there was still some like leftover gunk that I had to get off, especially on the feet. Because if you noticed, the entire thing was floating in air, because for whatever reason Kira did not place this on the bed flat, so there was a little bit of air gap between like the feet and everything. But you can see in the video here that the bottom parts printed, you know, phenomenal. Like there's no indication that there was support material on any of that, like, especially for the bottom of the tail. That's what a top of a print usually looks like. You can zoom in on that. And you can see this better on the time-lapse video as well. So this was all on the bottom. And usually when you're using supports, you can see, you know, like the little squiggly lines left over that are, you know, sort of baked in there. Yeah, the impressions that are like baked in there. For all of this, there's like absolutely nothing. So using PV, I can see why Ultimaker.
The bottom looks as good as the tops.
Yeah.
So incredible results here.
For all of that, looks super clean. So I can see why they were heavily promoting PVA use of this.
You should try this on the palette.
Works phenomenal.
PVA.
We do have some 175 PVA.
Yeah.
I don't know, Brennan, have you
PVA
guys
work?
tried PVA on the palette?
Yeah. Because water soluble stuff is hotness right now.
Yeah. it looks very nice.
Yeah. So
especially for like,
this is obviously like, hey, I'm a sort of a character designer and I want to test out my my characters. But for industrial parts, like we showed last week, we have it right here. This is the what do you call it? It's a print for a 3D printer. This is going to be manufactured with injection molding, but to have the ability to test out on your printer without, you know, all this baggage of supports that is hard to remove and might fuse with your part. Can you bring it up closer? There you go. You can really see how the details here, like you really can't print this in any orientation, so you really kind of have to just have it floating in the air and then tons of support.
Yeah.
But this worked out really well.
So this is actually one of the parts we were going to print with the Ember DLP resin printer. Yep. But it just kept failing on us printing, so I was like, okay, here's the opportunity to try to use PVA on the Ultimaker 3, and it came out really nice. So for industrial parts that you need printed, like you were saying, that have, you know, all these weird oddities that are features that are like protruding out, there's no way to lay this completely flat without sacrificing any of the quality of how this would print out. PVA is it's freaking phenomenal.
Did anybody catch that the Ultimaker 3 this print failed? Well, it didn't fail, but the tower kind of fell off.
Yeah, I forgot to put like a 6mm brim around the tower.
And it still caught itself and it still worked. So there's a little bit of rough spots, but there's better ways to add supports. Like supports all the way around would have worked, I think.
So PVA for the one on doing any engineering parts or overhangs where you don't want to do any sanding or any post-processing work to get rid of the impressions that are left behind for the support materials.
What's the shelf life of open PVA? I'm not sure, but I've heard that there is a shelf life.
Yeah.
Know that there is one, I guess.
So this spool we bought 3 years ago.
Such a great question. Does the leftover water need any special handling?
So that is something I forgot to mention. That is something that has not been addressed. So
what do you do with your bucket that has water and a bunch of PVA dissolved in it?
So it is not drinkable. It doesn't just dissolve away. It all sort of melts and goes to the bottom. And I got to figure out how to actually dispose of it.
Yeah. How do I clean my 8-gallon bucket now?
Yeah.
So that is one of the caveats, I guess, is just the cleanup, having an area to actually dissolve it in. So we had to find this bucket. I wanted a fish
spool that we used for it. It didn't use too much. Like, this was a full spool, which
Well,
is...
does it cost a lot more than PLA?
You know what?
Maybe.
I'm going to say yeah.
Maybe.
People are saying boil it off, burn it, strain it.
Set it on fire. Hey, thank you for the
I mean, it's supposed to be like Elmer's glue, right? Is what a lot of people compare it to. But
Yeah.
you still, you're left over with, you know...
You dunked your
bucket
hand in it just to kind of readjust it, and then you took your hands out of the bucket, and it was all gluey. It's
Mhm.
like, oh, great.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not going to burn your skin, but it's, you know, I have to clean it up.
Yep. But yeah, it did. When you take a look at how much was actually used, it wasn't too much. Even though it feels like there's a ton on the bottom of that bucket now. In terms of the question on the life of it, I've heard like a year, but we've had this spool for like 3 years, and it feels perfectly fine. Last time I tried extruding it, it wasn't all popping, so definitely
Okay.
depends on, you know, how dry your area is.
Right. How dry? How humid?
Yeah, humidity.
Because yeah, it likes moisture.
Yeah. Okay, other questions you guys are asking? Scroll up.
Yeah, go ahead
Hopefully
and
find
drop your
one.
questions. We're finally at the Q&A part of the show. Yeah. $100 for 0.75 kilograms, says Kirby.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, it's expensive.
Yes, we do have a video on recycling failed prints, but we're using a Filabot to do that. The size of the filament for the palette is 175. The Monoprice Select Mini.
Is that the one
writer's
that Phil
asthma.
B was testing?
I think it is, and he had.
He was impressed. He was quite
impressed.
impressed.
Yeah.
Wow, it works.
S3D is our slicer of choice.
Yep. Dead air.
Let's see. I mean, you can hear the
It's still dead
palette
air.
on, yeah. Okay, I think that's going to be it for this week.
Cool. Well, thank you guys again for joining us. Don't forget, tomorrow's coupon code if you want to place an order on Thanksgiving. It won't ship out then, but, you know.
Temperature for PVA, I believe it is...
Is it like 180, 190?
Yeah, it's
Not
definitely
as hot,
lower.
right?
It's
It's
not as
lower.
hot, yeah. I didn't have a chance to look at it. I used all the default settings inside of Cura for
That's
that.
nice for Ultimaker 3. Some of the premises you don't need to know what settings because they have the profile set up for you. So that's kind of a nice thing. That's kind of what you're paying for too, is an ease of use. Say you're an industrial designer, is like, I don't want to know about all the slicing.
Yeah, I just need to get my design
I
printed.
need to get this printed. The Ultimaker 3 has got your back.
Yeah. Simplify 3D is pretty amazing, yeah. Definitely worth the price. Don't forget, you guys can get, if you spend $99 or more, all these
You
freebies.
get a pen.
Pens, $150 or more,
$150.
you get a free specials that'll pop up on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I think we're taking out ads on that, so be on the lookout for those.
Cool.
And thanks again for everybody for joining in the
Yes,
chat room.
we are very thankful for you folks. We're very blessed, and we wish you guys luck in all your maker endeavors. Had a great year, and I'm out of words.
Tune in next Wednesday because I think
Thursday, we're
Thursday-
traveling again.
Thursday's traveling again.
So at least we're letting you know this week that, hey,
Yeah.
next week we're having
I
the
think
show
it's going to
on Wednesday
continue being
again.
on Wednesday just because the
We'll
timing.
chat with Lamar and Phil about it.
Yeah, it
see
seems to
if
be
it's okay.
better.
I think it's okay.
All right, guys.
Cool.
Thank you for joining.
How much for the UPS truck? We'll answer that for next week. See, don't forget. All right, guys.
You guys rock too.
You. Bye, everybody.